Welcome to Breaking the Line, the ECNL Podcast, a bi-weekly look at all things related to the growing elite clubs nationally, the ECNL. For more information on the ECNL, visit us at www.theecnl.com. Now, here's your host for Breaking the Line, the ECNL Podcast, former U.S. Soccer press officer and longtime soccer broadcaster, Dean Linke.
The ECNL Coaching Symposium and AGM, which was held in Las Vegas several months ago, is powered by U.S. Club Soccer. And at the ECNL Coaching Symposium and AGM, I sat down with the CEO of U.S. Club Soccer, Mike Cullina, and one of his new hires, Vince Ganzberg, the new Director of Coaching Education for U.S. Club Soccer. It'll be Mike Cullina and Vince Ganzberg on this week's Breaking the Line, the ECNL Podcast, and it starts after this message from the ECNL.
As the game continues to evolve in the United States, the ECNL remains the standard of excellence in youth soccer. The Elite Clubs National League has grown to include over 200 clubs and nearly 50,000 players across the country, with a robust competition platform for teams, educational resources for coaches and clubs, and unparalleled identification and development opportunities for players. Alongside its member clubs, collaborating to create a better future, the ECNL continues to raise the game every day. The ECNL is more than a league. Welcome back to Breaking the Line, the ECNL Podcast. Once again, here's Dean.
Welcome back to Breaking the Line, the ECNL Podcast, evergreen coverage as part of our stay here at the ECNL Coaching Symposium and AGM. And of course, the ECNL Coaching Symposium is basically supported by, sponsored by, what's the word? U.S. Club Soccer. As we're joined by Mike Cullina, the CEO of U.S. Club Soccer and a friend to the ECNL Podcast, a friend to the ECNL. Great to see you, Mike.
It is great to be here. We call it powered by U.S. Club Soccer.
Okay, and tell me what that means and why it was so important.
Well, we see our relationship with the ECNL as really a partnership, a strategic partnership, not only in player development, but in how we are impacting the sport. And the opportunity to be here and put on such a world-class event for the coaches, for the clubs, is really important for us to be able to impact the sport and do exactly what we say we are.
Well, and make no mistake, coaching education is important because you just made a big hire, a man who I've got great respect for, a man who I've worked with for quite a long time as well, talking about Vince Ganzberg, who we're going to welcome in a moment. But before we do, tell us about hiring Vince. That's a big hire.
It's a huge hire. We actually brought in both Vince and Missy Price at the same time. Vince and I go way back, our days of state directors of coaching, him in Indiana, me in Nebraska. And obviously, we've stayed in touch for many, many years. And as we decided that we wanted to support not only the Federation and their licensing, but also create and develop our own in conjunction with the ECNL and our other member leagues in the National Premier Leagues, we felt it was important to bring the best possible educators into our organization to help us develop new content and to help us educate and raise standards within all of our leagues. So it was a pretty easy choice when Vince expressed his interest. And we went through the process, but ultimately we were pretty sure where we were going to end up from the very beginning, quite frankly.
And obviously, Vince, you and I have had a lot of great conversations over the years, particularly about just your love for coaching education, your love for making coaches better, and now you get to bring that to U.S. Club Soccer. Can you talk about how excited you are and maybe what you're most looking forward to?
First off, thank you for having me here. For me, what excites me the most is just being able to be more connected to leagues and coaches within those leagues and those clubs, as opposed to what I was doing before. And I'm just very grateful and humbled and honored to get that opportunity to represent it for U.S. Club Soccer.
I mean, one of the prevailing messages this week at the ECNL Coaching Symposium is the power of youth soccer in this country, obviously specifically the power of the ECNL and their proud partnership with U.S. Club Soccer. But as always, the youth is the future, Mike, and you guys are right in the middle of it.
We certainly are. You know, the organization continues to grow, and now we feel this sense of obligation back to the sport. and our ability with our growth to reinvest in the sport is exactly what we're doing now in the coaching education department. We hadn't had that opportunity before. We weren't in a position to do that, and now that we are, we were very quick to make the move and build out this entire department.
I'd like you to add on to that, Vince, working with the future, and you are, because you're helping coaches make the future even better.
I always tell coaches that they might be the best thing going in a child's life. So it's very, very important that they learn how to understand how to not only just the X's and O's, but how do you work with kids? How do you be a champion for them? So my role I'll be able to continue to develop content and deliver education, not just for U.S. Soccer, but also for us as well. So if we help coaches, that helps kids, helps the game, makes the game beautiful, and keeps it beautiful.
All right, I want to stay with that, and then I want Mike, with his big brain as an executive who has, sat on U.S. Soccer's board forever and definitely has made very strategic moves into this spot, which has always impressed me about Mike. But I want to go back to what you said about, essentially you said at the end of the day, without saying it, and I'm paraphrasing, a lot of these kids spend more time with coaches than even their parents. And because of that, coaches have an enormous amount of power. They can use that power in the right way, and then on a few cases, they can use the power in the wrong way. And when they do use it in the wrong way, it can really hurt.
Absolutely. I'm sure we can all think back at a coach that changed our life, both positive and negatively. And I think that we've got to keep conveying that message, and obviously Missy will be doing that as well with us, and Missy and I will be working together, and I'm thrilled to be working with her, someone of her ability and her level, and she's just a wonderful person. 60% of kids have experienced trauma before the age of 16, and a lot of coaches don't understand that. The idea of implementing trauma-informed coaching practices into your content, in other words, how do you make sure that no child walks around with a hole in the heart even though you're trying to improve them? So I think the message really should be more about, can you transfer knowledge and understanding as a coach? That's what great coaches do. And can you teach life lessons using a sports strategy? So that's what coaches should be doing.
Look, Dean, I spend far too much of my time talking about things that don't improve the sport, whether it's behavioral issues or governance issues or lawsuits or things that I deal with at the federation level, and even within U.S. Club Soccer as it relates to player health and safety, which are quite important, obviously. But to be here in this environment and to be able to talk about ways to actually improve the sport, to actually help a child develop and grow through our coaches, is quite refreshing. To be here and see the presenters, and obviously Missy just absolutely crushed it a few minutes ago, to speak to an audience of nearly 500 coaches representing how many hundreds of thousands of players, and the direct impact that both Missy and Vince and the rest of our coach education team will be able to make. It's quite nice to be able to finally have those conversations and be excited about what we're doing and how we can improve the sport. So take nothing away from the necessary conversations, but this is what it's all about. This is what I got into the sport my entire life to do, and did as a director of coaching and did as an executive in the club level, and now we get to do with U.S. Club.
Great answer. Always enjoy hanging out with Mike Cullina. Such a big-time brain, as I said, as we're part of the ECNL Coaches Symposium powered by U.S. Club Soccer. He's the CEO of U.S. Club Soccer. You also, in that role, kind of got to sit in on the, quote, AGM for the ECNL, where they put out some very aggressive mission statements, and one of them is even getting into that U12 range and even what they're calling, for lack of a better word, pre-ECNL. When you hear that from where you sit, knowing that particularly across the pond, they'll start even at U9 in a high level. How are you feeling about that next step?
I think these players are already existing in our ecosystem. It's just a matter now of exposing them to the ECNL slightly earlier and being able to raise standards within the league slightly earlier. He announced also that we're going to have minimum coaching standards in the ECNL, in the Regional League, and also in the NPLs. It's already part of our ecosystem. It's already part of many of these clubs who are members of ECNL. It's just a matter of bringing a slightly younger player into and experiencing the ECNL slightly earlier. Ultimately, I'm not sure how much it will change other than the early exposure and our ability to implement minimum standards a little earlier.
And really, Vince, what it means is another layer to the importance of what you're doing to make sure that these coaches that get this first touch at, let's say it's U12 instead of U9, maybe eventually we'll get to U9, but even at that phase is so important.
Absolutely. Again, it just goes back to they have a wonderful opportunity to improve not just a child on the field, but make them better off the field too. And doing that at a younger age, especially when they're 12, 13, when they're going through so much, those kids are, it's very important that we take kind of the lead in that role, and we do that.
We're here with Mike Cullina, and we're here with Vince Ganzberg with U.S. Club Soccer, as Mike Cullina making two big hires, as you'll also hear eventually on Breaking the Line, the ECNL Podcast, the aforementioned Dr. Missy Price. We'll come back and dive into the hiring of these two members and talk more good things about the future of U.S. Club Soccer right here on Breaking the Line, the ECNL Podcast. The ECNL is pleased to announce Quick Goal as the official goal provider and partner for ECNL Girls and ECNL Boys, a new partnership created to support the growth and development of the country's top players, clubs, and coaches. At all national events, including national playoffs and national finals, the Quick Goal Coaches Corner will provide hospitality and social space for ECNL Girls, ECNL Boys, and collegiate coaches. Quick Goal will also be the presenting sponsor of the National Championship winning ECNL Girls and ECNL Boys Coaches of the Year and the ECNL Girls and ECNL Boys Goals of the Year. Quick Goal looks forward to helping the ECNL continue to elevate the standards of youth soccer and provide more opportunities to players on and off the field in the coming years.
Nike is a proud sponsor of ECNL Girls. Nothing can stop what we can do together to bring positive change to our communities. You can't stop sport because #you can't stop our voices. Follow Nike on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Hudl is a proud partner of Breaking the Line, the ECNL Podcast. Hudl's powerful yet intuitive solutions make it easy for coaches and athletes to be at their best. And now it's more affordable than ever. All ECNL clubs can get 25% off on Hudl and Hudl Assist, the game breakdown solution. Clubs of 10 teams or more can take advantage of the exclusive ECNL Club package pricing. This bundle includes Hudl and Hudl Assist for every team and makes your club eligible for Hudl Focus Flex, the all-new portable smart camera with full Hudl integration at one affordable price. You can bring the best end-to-end performance analysis platform for soccer today. Just go to hudl.com/pricing/ECNL. That's Hudl, HUDL.com/pricing/ECNL. On February 6, 2023, coming out of the U.S. Club Soccer offices in Charleston, the headline reads, U.S. Club Soccer hires Price Ganzberg to enhance educational resources for members. U.S. Club Soccer is proud to welcome Dr. Missy Price as its new Vice President of Education and Development and Vince Ganzberg as its new Director of Coach Education. Both bring decades of valuable experience that will benefit members on and off the field and is part of an overall plan to increase minimum coaching and league standards. You heard a little bit of that in the first segment. But to be fair, Mike, you know, this announcement is a little bit like LeBron and D. Wade kind of combining, and you're kind of overseeing it as Pat Riley. It's pretty solid, my man.
Well, it's Bird and McHale, to be fair. So we'll go that route. When we started this process, we looked at hiring a technical director of coach education. And the evolution through the interview process, and it was pretty interesting how we went about it. What we started with is the team in Charleston in the initial rounds of interviews really focused on culture and character of folks. So I didn't even speak with candidates until late after the second round of the process. So we were really encouraged by the level and depth of folks that showed interest in the position. And the further we got along in the process, we thought, okay, well, now let's shift to, we have so much talent in this pool. How can we hire two? How can we do more than what we originally set out to do? And we took a little pause, team reflected and said, okay, where can we match skill sets? Where can we match experiences? And ultimately, when we landed on both Vince and Missy, and Christian and I managed the last round of the interviews with the final round of candidates, it became really clear how they would be connected and how they could fill each other in what their experiences are, what their expertise is. And we just said, this is a no-brainer. Let's figure out a way to hire both. And that's how we went about it.
All right. As you know, I'm big on name dropping as well. And one of the things I liked about your release and I like about your leadership style is, yeah, you made this announcement, but you made sure to point out the work of Ashley and Abby. I want you to say their full names and what they do. And I like the fact that, within 4 paragraphs, you're tipping your hat to some key members already part of your staff.
One of the things that Kevin Payne brought to U.S. Club Soccer is the idea of players first. He tasked Ashley Lair with building this out. And Ashley took what was a concept and built out a coach education platform, a department really on her own. And we hired some coach licensed technical leads. Abby joined us a year ago. And they've been doing this work and got us to a point where our relationship with the Federation was extremely strong. Our ability to scale the courses was quite good. But how do we go next? And Ashley actually led the interview process because of her involvement in what she built as kind of a legacy of herself. She led this process for us and did just an exceptional job, without question. So we wouldn't be here hiring Vince, hiring Dr. Price, without their work, without the work of Brian Seifert and Bo Morkey, as well as Marcy in Ohio. What they do for us is fantastic. So it's just a culmination of all the work that they've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years, and here we are.
You're hearing Mike Cullina, the CEO for U.S. Club Soccer. We're also here with their new Director of Coaching Education, Vince Ganzberg. Vince, I'm going to read you this paragraph and just get your reaction, and we've touched on it a little bit, but of course, reading this sounds better than anything I would say, so I'm just going to read directly from it. U.S. Club Soccer's coach education platform provides, in bold, greater accessibility of educational resources, in bold, more diverse development opportunities, in bold, broader support for member coaches that includes their personal wellness, and a depth of education, also in bold, that combines technical abilities with empathetic behaviors. That's a strong paragraph. You now get to represent that. What does that mean?
It means it's a huge responsibility, and I'll be leaning on people like Ashley and Abby and Marcy and Bo and Brian to help cultivate that throughout. By the way, I do like the Bird McHale comparison a little bit better because I am a Hoosier and still am. And so, anyway, no, it's just a huge responsibility, but I think we do have to be empathetic. We have to grow the coach educator group to be more diverse, and we also have to make education more accessible, easier for people to become educated.
I like that paragraph. Mike, can you add on?
Well, that paragraph was written by Tyler Heffernan. It speaks to many of the things that we speak about. As I read that the first time, and thank you for highlighting it, I thought back to my coaching days when all of a sudden you start to hear players repeat phrases or actions that you're asking of them in training, and all of a sudden, I'm making an impact on our player behaviors and decisions. And so when I read that paragraph the first time, I thought, maybe we are making a difference culturally in the organization, because empathy is a word that I use quite a bit with us in talking about cross-departmental efforts and how we're unifying and working together. So it does highlight the work that we're doing. I thought it was extremely strong by Tyler Heffernan and the rest of the Marcon team.
Very strong, as we're here at the ECNL Coaches Symposium, powered by U.S. Club Soccer. And Mike, I always enjoy spending time with you because you kind of say what's on your mind, and you just made these 2 big hires. You probably already are thinking 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months down the road. What are some key things on your mind that you want to share with our audience here on Breaking the Line, the ECNL podcast?
Well, the more I do this with you, Dean, the more I realize maybe I don't always have to say what's on my mind, but I do anyway. I think we've set a pretty strong agenda of reviewing existing programming. ID2 is front and center for us. Futsal's front and center for us in things that we want to do as next steps, and that process is ongoing. So, where do we go next? Stay tuned.
And Vince, it's probably harder for you because you're so brand new. So I know probably what you want to do like right now, and that is you want to get out and you want to educate coaches. But do you have a big vision down the road on where you want to take this new role with U.S. Club Soccer?
The first bit, I'll be in more observation mode and just kind of seeing getting the lay of the land and leaning a lot on Ashley and Abby and Marcy and Bo and Brian and all the other people in the leagues and throughout this organization. My vision would be to try and create education for all types of coaches. Although we are specifically really focused more on clubs and the leagues, but just a variety and a diverse education for everybody. And as far as, some ideas, yeah, I'd like to have, a course someday on an app. The grassroots or the mom and dad coach can simply be educated, but meaningfully, through an app someday. Although nothing replaces in person. And I realize that, but we also have to realize that, we are in the times of technology as well, and make things accessible and affordable for them. Creating CPD events for U.S. Soccer, I think that's going to be a big part of my role, and how that's laid out. I think that's going to be part of my vision moving forward.
Okay, when we return, we close it out looking for takeaways from Mike Cullina and Vince Ganzberg. Last word time after these messages from the ECNL corporate partners.
ECNL Boys is partnering with Puma for the second year, driving sport forward with the leading products and the next generation of pros who wear them. Puma has proven themselves as the fastest sports brand in the world, the fastest innovation, the fastest players, and the fastest products in the game. They're the perfect partner to complement the speed and talent of our teams. In keeping with their mantra of forever faster, Puma introduces the world's fastest boot, the Ultra. The only boot engineered for speed, the Ultra combines a woven upper with a lightweight outsole for direct forward motion, speed, and acceleration. It's the best in the game, designed for the best players in the game. Soccer.com is proud to partner with the ECNL to support the continued development of soccer in the U.S. at the highest levels. We've been delivering quality soccer equipment and apparel to players, fans, and coaches since 1984. Living and breathing the beautiful game ourselves, our goal at Soccer.com is to inspire you to play better, cheer louder, and have more fun. Visit Soccer.com today to check out our unmatched selection of gear, expert advice, and stories of greatness at every level of the game. From athletes just starting to turn heads to some of the best athletes to ever play their games, Gatorade shows that they are the proven fuel of the best. For the athletes who give everything, nothing beats Gatorade, the studied, tested, and proven fuel of the ECNL.
Welcome back to Breaking the Line, the ECNL Podcast. Dean Linke spending time with Mike Cullina, the CEO of U.S. Club Soccer. Of course, the ECNL Symposium and AGM powered by U.S. Club Soccer, as you heard Mike Cullina say earlier in this interview, and their new Director of Coaching Education, Vince Ganzberg. When we went to break, we promised that we would talk about takeaways from the symposium and last word, tipping points, if you will, something I often like to do in these interviews. And we start with Mike Cullina. Mike, your takeaways on the symposium, and then after Vince, we'll get your last word.
Last year at this event, we brought in our NPL leadership and had a strategic session on where do we go next. This year we did the same. We brought them in. We had our leagues representing about 500,000 players, members of ours, and shared with them kind of the vision of what's next. And now as we come into the ECNL Coaching Symposium and the AGM, you can see where there's alignment with the league and with U.S. Club Soccer on our go forward. I think the growth of this event, as Christian said as he opened, the first year is 75 coaches. This year they're turning folks away at 500. The ability, it struck me during Marcy's presentation, as we've all done presentations at the convention or at other events, the ability to have that many high-level coaches and club leaders all moving in the same direction, in the room together, being educated and developed, leaning in to the conversations and seeing how the impact that we're making together it's humbling, it's impressive, and it's really fun to be a part of.
Vince, brand new. I don't know if you've ever been to one of these before. So what are your takeaways as we start to say goodbye to you here as part of this Breaking the Line edition?
Oh, it's very impressive. And Mike just used the word leaning in. I'm watching the coaches in the room just literally lean in and get more. So it's very impressive, and just what they put together in such short amount of time.
Mike, I'm big on promotion. Remind everybody website or social media or anything that's kicking good with U.S. Club Soccer.
usclubsoccer.org. That's the website.
All right, that works. Mike, always a pleasure. You never disappoint. Big hire in Vince Ganzberg. We'll also have Dr. Missy Price featured on one of these episodes as well, maybe even back-to-back. Thanks so much for being with me and being a part of Breaking the Line, the ECNL podcast.
Always a pleasure. And the fact that the ECNL has the voice of American soccer in Dean Linke here tells you all you need to know about the impressiveness of the event.
Oh, shoot. Now I think we just went off the rails, but I appreciate that very much, Mike. Really enjoy it. Always do. And good luck to you, Vince, in your new role.
Thank you.
Speaking of thank yous, I want to thank Andrea Wheeler and her amazing crew, especially the crew that was in Las Vegas recording these interviews as well. They do such a great job. Everybody at the ECNL does such a great job. And of course, this podcast is for you, the ECNL members, the ECNL players, coaches, administrators, all of you. And for each and every one of you, I'm Dean Linke. We'll see you in 2 weeks for another edition of Breaking the Line, the ECNL podcast.
Thanks for listening to Breaking the Line, the ECNL podcast. For more information on the ECNL, visit us at www.theecnl.com. And if you have a suggestion for the show or a great idea for a guest, please email us at info@theecnl.com. Breaking the Line, the ECNL podcast is an ECNL production. ECNL, more than a league.